Welcome, critters! I'm Clara Jones, your devoted host of the Sacred Reading CR podcast, where we discuss and examine Critical Role episodes, plot lines, characters, and players through the lens of sacred reading practices. This particular episode is about Campaign 1, Episode 39, Part 2. And joining me today is Petall.
Hello.
So the icebreaker for today, which I literally found under 30 seconds ago, is what incredibly common thing have you never done?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if I have a quick answer for that because it's hard to remember things that I
Haven't
haven't done.
done. My thing that always really shocks people is that I've never been camping, truly.
Ah,
Being in the Pacific Northwest, that's really considered an oddity because camping is one of our favorite pastimes in this region. And I mean, technically, I've slept in cars before, in locations that weren't my home. But I don't know if that qualifies as camping necessarily. Because, like, I haven't done the whole, like, tent on the ground in the sleeping bag thing. Um,
yeah.
but I have slept in a car.
Was the car in the woods?
It was in a field. It wasn't necessarily like we didn't hike to get there. It was like, it was by, like, a dirt bike track. So I don't know if that counts or not, but I haven't had the like traditional, camping in a tent in the woods like experience.
Yeah, I don't know if that counts or not. I would say probably not, because for me, camping is, yeah, a tent or like maybe an RV, and you
Or
go somewhere and set up, and there's campfires if there's no campfire ban, of course, or
yeah,
like bringing a bunch of stuff out and just kind of like living in the woods or
yeah,
the wilderness for a little while.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know if my experiences count or not, but I have not traditionally gone camping. And people are like, you should go. And I'm like, that stuff costs money. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, rent a tent and a sleeping bag and a cooking stove and like all of the other things that I need in order to survive out in the wild? Like, that's a lot of money to drop for like,
Yeah, camping is a cheap vacation if you already have all the supplies.
yeah, like I don't even own a sleeping bag. Like, what am I gonna do? I don't even own an
Yeah.
air mattress. Like, mm,
Yeah, I don't know if I can think of something. This is a
mm,
hard one. 'Cause again,
mm.
it's hard to think of something that you haven't done.
Yeah, like, is there anything that you've always wanted to do that you haven't done that other people have done?
My mind's just going completely blank. If there is something, it's gone.
So, moral story being, Petal has done everything.
I don't think that's quite true, but
You are
we
the
can
most
go with that.
burly Renaissance pioneer out there.
Oh, one thing that I've always wanted to do that this isn't something that everybody's done, but it's the sort of thing that a lot of people in my friend circles have done, just given the nature of our shared interests. But I would love to go to a Renaissance fair at some point.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I've never been to a Ren fair. I don't
Yeah.
even know if there are any close to where I live.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been to one, but it was called a medieval fair. It wasn't Renaissance fair. So I don't know if there is a difference or not. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you just saying Renaissance reminded me, and I'm like,
There
this
you
isn't a
go.
common
There you
thing that
go.
everybody's done, but it's like a lot of people that I know and hang out with have
Yeah.
done,
Yeah.
and I have not.
Yeah. Ren fairs are fun. Yeah. Definitely recommend. Would recommend for sure. And I definitely need to go to more. I've only been to one, and I think that's a shame as well.
Yeah,
Well, please join us as we embark on this exciting adventure in story analysis and self-reflection in order to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. As always, we love hearing your own insights and stories as well, so please comment, like, subscribe below, and ready. All right, let's dive in. as we open this podcast episode, take it away, Petal.
Yeah, so after the break, it starts with Keyleth apologizing for the whole mist incident that happened before the break. The party then returns to the gallery room and discusses what they will keep and what they will give to Dr. Dranzel. Vex argues that what they found in the cave was not technically in the house, so it should not be included. Vex also pitches that Vox Machina take ownership of the house and tell Uriel that they need to watch it as it is dangerous. Scanlan says that they should keep their word and asks Pike what she thinks of this. Pike says she thinks the party should let Uriel know, but they should hold to their original deal. The party agrees to make sure that the house is cordoned off and decides to take the skull with the gemstone in the eye socket and a gold tea set. While they're talking, Grog takes off running out of the house, yelling that they need to leave now. Grog says that the house and the skull are linked, and as long as as it is inside, the evil will grow. Grog says that the house needs to be destroyed. The party asks how he knows all this. Grog lies first and says that he has premonitions sometimes. Vax then gets very close to Grog and tells him that he has been acting all sorts of fucked up and that he knows he doesn't want to disappoint Pike. Vax demands to know what is going on and tells him that Pike knows when he is lying. Grog says that he is hurt and offended and tells Vax that they should settle this through a fight. Vax walks away and leaves the situation. Grog asks to talk to Pike and tells her that the skull has a voice and it offered him a wish. Pike tells him to put the skull down. Grog says that he doesn't want to, but drops it when Pike asks. Pike does some magic and discerns that there is an evil aura surrounding the skull, but that is all that she can tell. Percy then picks up the skull with his sword in the eye socket, and Vex notices a ghostly face appear in the gem in the other eye socket. The party discusses taking the skull to Whitestone to investigate it further. Keela says they will have to wait until tomorrow because she already used her 6th level spell slot on Mist. Half the party decides to take the skull to the keep, while the other half says that they will go and talk to Uriel. At the palace, the guard says that Uriel is in the midst of a heated discussion and cannot take guests at the moment. The guard offers to pass on a message. Scanlan says that another guard came while he was gone checking in, and that they were told that they could go in, rolling a nat 20 on deception. The guard allows them in, and they find a meeting of the Council of Tal'Dorei is in session. Uriel tries to shoo them away before recognizing them as Vox Machina and allowing them in. Scanlan says that Vox Machina has a security concern and describes what they found in General Krieg's house. Uriel says that he will send a security team to investigate. Vox Machina offers to investigate it themselves. Scanlan then asks to use the bathroom before they leave. Vex offers to wait for him just outside the bathroom. While in the bathroom, Scanlan polymorphs into a fly and makes his way into the throne room. Vex then begins chatting with the guards to distract them. As he enters the throne room, there is a burst of energy and his polymorph spell is dispelled. Scanlan says that he was looking for a different bathroom and leaves. Back at the keep, Dr. Dranzel is gone, leaving only the drummer of the band, who says that Kaylee has been arrested and is in the stockade. Scanlan says he should try to get her out, as she is quite special to him. The party teases him before he says that she is not special in that way, making a remark that it is creepy. Keyleth asks why, as he was courting her 2 days ago. Scanlan says that things have changed, and he admits that they are related, revealing that she is his daughter. He says that he just found out, and that he is going through a crisis of conscience, and that he is adjusting, as for most of his life he has been defined by the people he has slept with. Percy points out that technically this too is the result of someone that he has slept with. Scanlan asks if anybody wants to join him in freeing Kaylee. He calls Vax on the earring, as Vax has slipped away had slipped away on the way back to the keep, but he is out of range. Scanlan instead decides to take Keyleth and Percy. The group leaves for the Promenade Stockade. Dr. Dranzel's group, minus Dr. Dranzel, is sitting on the steps. The band asks Scanlan to use his silver tongue to get them out of the situation without paying any of the fines. Scanlan asks Percy for advice, wondering if they should use disguises. Percy reminds them that they have clout now and that they could just ask. Percy says that he will be more useful as himself and asks for gold in case he needs it when he goes in and talks. Scanlan asks if Percy is scamming him into paying for a new gun. Percy says no, but that is a good idea. Scanlan agrees to give him what he needs. Percy asks for 20 gold. Scanlan provides 50. Percy then asks to speak to the warden and is told he is busy. Percy pulls out his full title and says that he is here on behalf of Whitestone and demands to see him. The guards let him in and wish him luck. Percy enters, hearing raised voices. Dr. Dranzel is in an argument with the warden. Dr. Dranzel tries to pull Percy in for help. Percy shushes him and pretends not to know him, asking Dr. Dranzel who he is. Dr. Dranzel plays along. Percy dismisses him and demands that the guards escort him out of the room, calling him a commoner. Warden Cyrus Hume introduces himself. Percy pulls out his title again. Cyrus says this means nothing to him, to which Percy insists that it will. He claims that he is the newly appointed ambassador of Whitestone and that he has been sent to fetch a performer that has been hired to perform for his sister. Cyrus asks him to describe her, and Percy uses an unflattering description. He says that much has already been arranged and paid for, and he does not want to explain this to the royal court. He says that if Cyrus helps, he and Whitestone will remember this. Cyrus says that there are damages and fines that need to be paid for 700 gold pieces in total, and that if this is paid, he will gladly let Percy take the rabid Doug Grubber off of his hands. Scanlan speaks up to defend Kaylee, and Percy shushes him. Percy then attempts to flatter the warden, who directs him to the three patrons of the tavern that Kaylee attacked, saying that she both started and finished the fight. Percy says that the fines will be paid out of the troops' pocket, directing his statement at Scanlan, who tries to insist that a check will be written. Cyrus says that he only deals in gold. Percy and Scanlan get into an argument about the methods that they are using to navigate the situation. Scanlan says that they should have used more subterfuge, and Percy saying that this is the better way. Percy then bribes Cyrus with 20 gold, saying that the full amount will be available at the keep tomorrow. Cyrus turns down the bribe. Scanlan jumps in, throwing Percy under the bus and punching him. Percy takes the punch. Scanlan then punches a guard, saying performers deserve respect. Both Percy and Scanlan are arrested and put in manacles. Scanlan says to take only him. Percy is released, and Scanlan is thrown into the same cell as Kaylee. Percy attempts to ask for the cost to release both of them and receives no answer. Percy tells Scanlan over the earring to wait for nightfall and then dimension door them both out. Scanlan and Kaylee talk about what happened last night. Kaylee says that they probably deserved it at some point in their life. Scanlan says that he has come to get her out of here and asks if they hurt her. Kaylee says that the only one person has hurt her recently. She says she spent a lifetime hating Scanlan and that she has always imagined what it would be like meeting him, and up until last night she was spot on, and that now she has a lot to think about. She says she wants to get out of this cell now. Scanlan notices some nearby guards and asks if Kaylee can be a distraction. She creates an illusion of noise down the hall. While they are distracted, Scanlan dimension doors them both outside. Everyone returns to the keep, including Dr. Dranzel's troop. Dr. Dranzel says that it is time for the troop to get out of town. They all leave, thanking Vox Machina for their hospitality. Kaylee tells Scanlan not to come looking for her and that she will find him when she is ready. Vex celebrates the fact that the troop has forgotten their share of the gold from General Krieg's house, but then discovers that the kitchen and the guest bedrooms were raided and lots of objects were stolen. Percy then spends some downtime working on his gun. Before bedtime, Grog goes down to Percy's workshop and tries to pick the lock with a sword, failing and damaging the sword. Morning comes around, and the cook Lena says that she was unable to make breakfast due to the lack of cookware. Vex says Scanlan will pay for it. He agrees and provides 50 gold pieces. At this point, Seeker Asun comes to visit to request Vox Machina's presence at the Cloudtop District this evening, as Uriel is planning on making a statement to quell the distrust in his leadership. Vex says that Vox Machina will put off their visit to Whitestone so that they can attend. She also asks Seeker Asun to send Vax home if he sees him, as Vax has yet to return to the keep. The party then discusses whether the skull is safe at the keep. Scanlan voices concern that the skull may summon a dragon or some other monster. Percy goes to check on the skull in his workshop, declaring it to be safe. They tell Jarrett to guard it, then they go out looking for Vax. Keyleth at one point sees him rushing past while they are searching. Vax ignores her and keeps going. Vox Machina gives up on their search by the afternoon and return to the keep, where Vex finds Vax in her bedroom. She asks him what is going on. Vax insists everything is fine. He is just not sure what Vox Machina is doing and what the point of it all is. Vex sits him down and asks him what he is mad about. Vax says that when it was just the two of them, they were just trying to survive, and now they are running into all sorts of situations head on. He says he doesn't understand what they are doing with all these people and leaves, asking Vax to think about it too. Evening falls and Vox Machina makes their way to the Cloudtop district. Scanlan swings by Gilmore's on the way. Gilmore is dressed up for the announcement tonight and offers to travel with him. Scanlan asks for help with the new scrying method. Gilmore says that can be arranged. Vox Machina arrives at the Cloudtop district. As the sun sets, the event begins and Uriel is escorted in, stepping onto the stage. He thanks everyone for coming on such short notice and announces that Daxio has passed away and asks that his name not be smeared. Uriel then talks about his failure to protect his people from evil and says he feels that the lands have outgrown the royal family. He then announces that in order to safeguard them, he will be stepping down as sovereign at the end of the week and handing the leadership of Iman to the Taldori Council. One of the guards then rushes in and whispers into Sikarasun's ears. Vex notices two fast-moving streaks of color, one black, one red. Warning bells begin to go off, interrupting Uriel's speech. He attempts to calm the crowd, Asun urges everyone to evacuate to their homes. A white dragon slams into Allura's tower in the distance, unleashing icy breath into the tower before pushing off to attack civilians below. Allura's tower falls to the ground. A grinning ancient green dragon perches above the crowd, calling them delicious cattle, stating she enjoys the taste of fear, and revealing her name to be Raishan. She sweeps down and attacks. Grog goes into a rage, drawing Craven Edge and attacking Raishan with it. Grog misses with the first attack and lands the second. Vex notes that it is strange that a group of chromatic dragons are working together and that this is not a good sign. Raishan uses her poison breath, catching all of Vox Machina in her range. Grog gets an attack of opportunity and misses. Keela slams her staff onto the ground and casts a protective spell, urging them to run towards the nearest tree and get beneath her spell. Vax grabs Trinket and Vex and run. Vex addresses Raishan, apologizing for whatever pissed her off and pleading with her to fight Vox Machina and leave everyone else alone. Vex takes off running. Scanlan tries to find Gilmore but can't see him among the crowd. Scanlan summons Bigby's hand to try to block the dragon. He inspires Grog and begins running. Pike runs and casts Mass Cure Wounds. Percy holds his attack and runs. Around them, the people are running and fleeing. A rolling cloud of fire can be seen in another part of the city. Grog dashes, and Raishan attacks again, and a black dragon arrives to join the fray. Vox Machina races towards the tree while the black dragon toys with them. The burst of fire gets closer, and a very large red dragon joins the scene. Vox Machina recognizes him from their time on the Plane of Fire. The red dragon urges the black dragon, Umbrasyl, to move on as he claims Amon as his domain. He tells the rest of the dragons that they have a job to do and they leave east. The city fights back, but the red dragon is too strong, burning everything in his path. Keyleth opens a portal in the tree, diving in. As the portal closes behind them, the session ends. And that is everything.
That is so much, man.
There's so much going on in just these 2 hours. So much.
So much. Like I was like, I don't even know where to begin talking, honestly, with all of this. Like there's so many highlights. Like we can't just focus on one section of this. Like obviously there's the big ending, and we'll get to the big ending in a minute.
The big ending only was like the last, like, what, 10, 20 minutes of
If
the
that,
episode.
if that, I mean, the dragon attack by itself, I think was like the last 8 minutes, something like.
Yeah.
So, like, first we have them returning to the keep and Scanlan admitting that Kaylee is his daughter and then
Mm-hmm.
running off to save her from the stockades, which is huge character development on his part. But we also have this argument between Grog and Bax going on, and
Mm-hmm.
Bax getting all sulky. Like, it's very sibling relationship stuff going on
Yeah.
in that. And then him also dodging Keyleth in the process. And then something else happens. What else happens?
Well, Vax has that
Oh,
conversation with Vex about how he's not sure what they're doing with
mhm.
this group
That
and
is a
how he
huge
has doubts.
conversation. Going to the palace and getting rebuffed at the palace is also
Yeah.
huge. And then, the ending with the announcement with Uriel was huge just in itself. And then we have four dragons. So
Yeah.
where do we start?
That's a very good question. There is so much going on here. And then there's also too like Percy's whole deal of like pulling out his title and like and acting like really snobby.
Well, I mean, I think he's finally stepping into his role because we talked about this in previous episodes when they were in Whitestone. He was like, I was never raised to be that type of leader of
Hmm.
Whitestone. But between then and now, we see him actually like not only putting on the mantle, but using the mantle to his benefit, which is definitely a shift from how he was being, you know, very traumatized at Whitestone over the whole process.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
family dynamics going on here.
There are a lot of family dynamics going on. I think the main one definitely is like Scanlan and Kaylee.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was said that he's having a crisis of conscience right now, and I think they all are to some
It's
extent.
very true.
Like I think both storyline meta wise and personal character storyline wise, I feel like it's so disjointed. Our attention is being drawn in so many different directions. Like, we don't even know where to begin talking about this episode to begin with.
Yeah.
And all of the characters are feeling that way in their lives too, because they're also being drawn in a ton of different directions. Like, we were talking about how nice it is to have these like downtime episodes between big arcs, you know what I mean? But I think this is also a great example of how too much downtime can be a bad thing sometimes, and
Yeah.
why people sometimes run from having downtime because then they're faced with their own thoughts and they actually have to like acknowledge the personal growth arcs that they may or may not be navigating at the moment instead of just like, hitting a dragging and moving on with your life without really paying attention to the internal stuff going on.
Well, the good news is that we also do have hitting a dragon and
Yeah,
on with their
yeah,
life in this
yeah.
episode
I
as
don't think their
well.
personal issues are going to seem very big
No.
after, yeah.
It kind of shifts everything. It was funny because I forgot that this is the episode where that happens. And
Me
as I was
too. The
like
whole
watching
time
this
I was like,
episode, I was,
man, this is dragging on. I was like, Matt just needs to end this episode. And then Assume came by and gave them the message, and I was like, wait a minute.
yeah.
Because I've also recently watched The Legend of Vox Machina,
Hmm.
things happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, wait. Um, yeah, I've
Yeah. As I was watching it, I was just like thinking of like all the like the plot points that were being picked up, like General Krieg's house, and I was thinking like, what happened with General Krieg's house? I'm like, I don't remember them actually like doing much after this
not to even mention the
investigation.
skull.
Not to even mention the skull, and I'm like, why did this not come up? This seems big. And then
Yeah,
the dragons attack, and I'm like, oh yeah, that
right,
kind of got
right,
thrown to the wayside once the
right,
dragons became
right.
General Krieg's house is probably destroyed, and
Problem
the
solved. Yeah.
dragon attack.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I like, yeah, where do we even begin? Like, I am fascinated by this sibling relationships that are going on,
Hmm.
both literal and metaphorical as well. I've mentioned this before, but I am an only child. I have step siblings, but I never really had like sibling relationships with them. And on the surface, I just see Vax like throwing a little temper tantrum by himself. But at the end of it, we're like, oh, his feelings were just hurt by Grog.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what's going on here.
Yeah, yeah. And then it was so fun seeing the Percy and Scanlan dynamic as
Yeah,
well. Like Percy was like not letting up on Scanlan for the fact that he had a daughter. Like was just like spent the whole episode like teasing him about like, oh, like kids are very expensive. This is your responsibility now.
yeah,
And just like really like teasing him and throwing him under the bus.
yeah. And Scanlan's like, this is not what I had in mind.
Yeah.
Percival, please.
And
Yeah,
my one of my favorite moments of the episode was when they were arguing about like the techniques that were being used, and like Scanlan was like, "I chose you. Why are you doing this?" And Percy was like, "I am the worst person you could have
yeah.
chosen for
You
this."
chose me to be an asshole. This is how I solve problems. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so much going on, and it all gets swept under the rug by, like, I was loving watching all of their faces as Uriel was making his speech too, because like Vex slash Laura was like instantly suspicious from like the minute Uriel started talking. She had this look on her face like, what is actually going on here? And I was like,
Hmm.
same girl, I am sus. Um, and then the realization hit on each of their faces at different points in time, and it was great to watch.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think it's such a stupid move on Uriel's part to go to a council system after finding out that one of your council members was a traitor.
Yeah, like I get the move because I do think that like a monarchy is inherently flawed as a system and spreading it among more people, but it is weird timing now that you mention it, especially when he didn't acknowledge the fact that Daxio was evil. And
Yeah.
then he immediately afterwards went into a speech about how like, oh, I've let too much evil into the kingdom. I'm like, maybe this is why, because you won't acknowledge when people are bad and do bad things.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's lots of evidence and reason for Uriel to step down, right?
Oh yeah.
That's obvious. But there's not also a lot of great evidence to support nominating the current council
Yeah, the current council. Like I think the council also needs to
in
be.
his place because we also have seen, at least on our ends as viewers and like from Vox Machina's point of view too, we have seen a lot of corruption within the council itself. Like not only General Krieg, but Daxio, Riscal Daxio now. And we'll see more traitorness later on with a certain someone, but that's a, bomb to drop later on.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the right answer is beyond
Yeah.
like democratically elected officials. What a concept.
Yeah, well, I think that's just like a problem in general, like in our world as well, because obviously, like democratically elected officials have their flaws too, given everything that's happening in the United States right now. And
Yeah.
like it's hard because it's so hard to find a system for how to run things
Well,
that doesn't ha leave room for corruption.
we have a very obvious parallel in Whitestone right now because
Yeah.
they literally just set up a new government in Whitestone with like trade-based council members, essentially, is how they were like, all right, we need someone from this trade community, we need someone from this trade community, we need someone from this trade community. And that's something that Amon could have done
Hmm.
that was actually pretty well reasoned out in terms of like how they chose to transition to that. But Uriel also left them a week. He was like, at the end of this week, I'm going to step down. Like, that is not enough time for transition of power.
Yeah.
A week? Yeah, there's my analytical, logical, organizational brain is hurting as a result of that speech. Um, So there is a lot of corruption, I think, going on inside. And I also think it's interesting that they specifically kept Vox Machina out of those conversations that they were having at the palace.
Yeah,
And I think
because
that
they
was,
were there at the palace, and that's clearly what they were discussing and arguing about.
yeah,
And they did not let Vox Machina know any of this.
yeah, yeah. And so there's just been intentional decision making every step along the way, from Uriel himself, from the council themselves, from certain members of the council to corrupt or obscure or hide, which is definitely something that we see in the real world right now.
It's also interesting too because they didn't even have the full council there. Like
Oh,
Allura was mentioned multiple times to be in
yeah,
Whitestone. That's why they were going to Whitestone was to
yeah.
get Allura to look at the
And
skull.
that's why the
Like,
White Dragon went to Alora's tower first.
yeah.
Like the White
And
Dragon
Allura
literally breathed inside Alora's tower. Why would it do that if it wasn't targeting her directly?
exactly. But yeah, they didn't even consider like Allura was not present for all these conversations about what's happening with the future of the Tal'Dorei Council and
Poorly
all of
thought
the
out actions. Yeah,
It definitely seems like the sort of thing like Uriel was just trying to like avoid responsibility and get ahead of the rumors that were spreading.
yeah, yeah. Very much like appearances focused, I think.
Yes.
Um, which has kind of been his modus operandi this entire time of like,
Hmm.
I'm just gonna act like everything's okay.
Yeah.
And if I just act hard enough, it'll make it true.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh man, do I know people like that?
Same here. And those people are, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't know whether I feel bad for Vax too at the end of the day when I was thinking about that as he was having his little temper tantrum. Like Grog is obviously making poor decisions as
Hmm.
no one has really confronted him about it beyond Vax.
Yeah.
Think we're kind of at a disadvantage without having Pike slash Ashley around to
Yeah.
be the person to act as intermediary for him. Um, because Grog's reaction was also quite strong to Vax confronting him as well. But
Hmm.
Vax also confronted him in a very aggressive way, which is not the way
Yeah.
that you want to confront Grog to begin.
And they also very much have this like friendly rivalry relationship with their like prank wars back and forth and like they don't have the sort of relationship where it's like those deeper conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of hurting people
Exactly.
going on in this episode. I think we see that with Scanlan and Kaylee. I think we see that with Vax, Grog, and Vex, I think, as well. Um, Uriel, for sure. Members of the council, for sure. Um, Everyone just needs a little bit of therapy. And even Keyleth, I think, is doing some of that as well because
Yeah.
she made some very strong remarks just right at the beginning of the second half of like, I don't even understand why we went into that house in the first place. I don't understand
Yeah.
why we're trying to take ownership of the house. I don't understand why we're trying to do all these things. And like, I think she has a tendency to make snap judgments about people because she thinks that other people make snap judgments about her.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
everyone else in the group was like, no, no, that's not what we're trying to do, Keela. We're just trying, like, we don't have to like own the house. We're just trying to like, take accountability for the house more so
Hmm.
like legally own it, you know.
Yeah,
But yeah, there's a lot of hurt people hurting people going on in this second half.
absolutely. And on a more joking matter, you could even you can even argue that that's what's going on with Thordak as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most villains fall into that category. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, most villains have their like villain origin story, and the villain origin story more often than not has to deal with them being disenfranchised somehow, right?
Hmm.
Or like being discriminated against or hurt in some shape or form. Like how like I mean just thinking about the current campaign with fuckface Ludineth, Ludineth,
Yeah.
like Ludinus to left, like all so many villain stories just could be like cut off if we just had a little more therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm, man. Well, anything else we want to?
I just want to say I do think that it's really funny that Scanlan was when he was talking about his concerns about the skull that he said like what if this summons like a dragon or a wyvern and like I know it's because it's linked to General Krieg's house but I was just like I thought it was funny before I had even clued in that this is the same episode that like the dragons attack, and it's true that the skull is not the source of that, but it was just real especially funny when I'm like, oh, this is literally the same episode that that happens in.
Yeah. And it's really interesting too, as like a narrative standpoint. And I know Matt has talked about this a lot when it comes to the Chroma Conclave arc, is the decision making you need to make as a story writer, as a story builder of like, when do I make the challenge something that they have to run away from rather than
Hmm.
fight? Because that realization that built up right in the last like 8 minutes of the episode also follows them winning a lot of fights
Yeah.
because they won the Whitestone arc. They won, this little Krieg's house adventure that they have. And so they've been feeling pretty good about themselves lately, but also
Yeah.
going through personal crises at the same time. It's very interesting character tension dynamics going on.
Absolutely.
Like, I wonder if the overwhelmingness of the dragons attacking validates their personal fears of not feeling like they're doing enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot to be said too about the fact that yes, sometimes bigger problems make like smaller problems seem like more insignificant, but oftentimes it also amplifies them.
Yeah.
And so this is
Yeah.
it amplifies them either because people push them aside and don't deal with them, or it amplifies them because the bigger thing just suddenly becomes like a bigger way to express those.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think individually they were all building up to some sort of like maybe imposter syndrome, maybe of
Hmm.
feeling like, how have we gotten to being like respected members of a council and ambassadors and like people who decide what to do with the world when we're still just fuck ups, we're still just assholes, we're still just these like our internal perceptions of ourselves are small people, like we are minor characters in the big scope of things, and yet we are now on this big public stage that we've been talking about a lot in our episodes and becoming in more public personas. And then it is literally demonstrated to them that they are a bunch of ants and compared to these four massive ancient dragons.
Yeah. Can you imagine if Krieg was still alive and also part of it and they had to do five dragons?
Well, yeah, that would have changed the whole dynamic because then they wouldn't even have the assurance that they've beaten a dragon in the past.
Yeah.
Because they could be like, all right, we might be able to take one dragon. They are
Hmm.
on that page right now. But if they hadn't been able to do that previously, they would have been running and screaming like all the other common folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what about personal experiences?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to pin, we've talked about so much, there's
I
so much
know, I
happening.
know.
It's hard to pin down specifics. I guess that even that I can pull into a thing of just being like sometimes I feel like I'm being pulled to a lot of different focuses in my life, and it's hard to like obviously some seem bigger and some seem smaller, and it's hard to balance everything and
Yeah,
get all of my needs and attentions met and make sure that everything I do everything that I need to do. And yeah.
yeah, yeah. As much as I wanted to judge Vax's meltdown, I also felt it on a deep level, and I was like, I hate that. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing either, Vax. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it all can be like we can sit here from like calmer situations and talk about what Vox Machina could have done or couldn't have done and all of these things. But really, when it comes down to it, like we all know what it's like to not know what we're doing. We all what it's like to suddenly be unexpectedly thrown into a huge crisis that we don't know how to deal with or solve or and have everything explode around us.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I have to admit, I'm feeling fairly helpless right now in the face of everything that's going on
Hmm.
nationally in my country at the moment. And I've been dealing with a lot of conflicting emotions about it because I have in the past been a big protester. Like I've protested for a lot of my life, and I don't have the time or energy for it these days. Like I'm trying to keep my own ship floating in the midst of all of the chaos going on, and it feels selfish of me to focus on my own shit right now. And as much as I tell myself that, like, you got to put your own oxygen mask on first. That's the first thing that you do in a crisis. But I'm also trying to come to terms with like what can I do on the scale that I can do it.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I know that I would be very valuable as a community organizer. However, do I actually have time for that? Like, so I'm trying to do what I can with what I have right now. And there is a big orange dragon right now that is bearing down on us. And I'm trying to figure out
Yeah.
how exactly. And like what we can talk about that more in the next episode when we talk about like how Vox Machina reacts to the attack at the end of
Yeah.
the episode. But I can definitely relate to the feeling of feeling like an ant and feeling insignificant in this moment, even
Hmm.
though that may or may not be true, because as we've discussed on this platform before, I do have some realm of influence.
Hmm.
I may not be Vox Machina's council member realm of influence yet, but I do have some, and so I can wield it to some extent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a difficult thing. I know that, I mean, it obviously isn't hitting as hard here in Canada, but there are definitely effects from everything going on in the United States right now. that
Yeah.
are leaking into Canada. First of
Yeah.
all, with the whole tariffs thing,
Yeah.
and then also just as it like leaving way for like the potential rise of fascism here as well. We've got a federal election coming up in this fall, and one of the candidates for the Conservative Party does scare me quite a bit, and I'm really hoping that he does not win.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could turn this into a whole political podcast, but I don't think that's the point.
No.
Um, but I can definitely relate to what Vox Machina is going through right now in terms of my own life. And I think also in terms of like just even more, much more simply, the sibling dynamics going on right now. Like going back to knowing people in my life who like act like everything's okay when
hmm
it's not right now, and how to deal with those relationship dynamics, and how to deal with people who are projecting their hurt onto you in conversations is
Yeah.
something that I can definitely relate to as well.
Yeah, it really does. There's a lot here to say about like personal relationships and the way that people react when they're stressed or scared or hurt,
Yes.
and how that meshes or doesn't mesh with other people.
Yeah. 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 I think there's a lot of hurt people hurting people out there in the world right now.
hmm
And I have to remind myself to not retaliate in kind
hmm
and not be like, you're hurting me, I'm gonna hurt you. Rah!
Yeah.
And just like take a step back, like kind of like what Vex did at the end of, Vex stomping out and being like, all right, well, I'm just gonna continue with what I was doing because I can't fix that situation right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are we gonna do about it?
Those are big questions. I think what are we gonna do? But I think right now, I think for the theme, like especially for the themes of this episode where everything is fall apart and we haven't seen how they fix it yet.
Yes.
I think a lot of this is just kind of like accepting the messiness for what it
Yes.
is, acknowledging the problem, acknowledging the hurt,
Yeah.
realizing that everything is a big fucking mess.
Yeah.
And because you can't just like it can be easy to say like you need to jump into action, you need to do this, this, and this. Like we do a lot of that on the podcast. We're like, they could have done this, they could have done
Yeah.
this, they could
Yeah.
have done this.
Yeah.
But really, like when you're in the midst of it, you can't make the perfect choices all the time. And sometimes you need to stop for a moment, like not for too long, because then you just settle into inaction. But
Mhm.
just like stop, acknowledge everything for what it is, acknowledge your stress, acknowledge your feelings, like figure out how you're reacting to all of this. And you kind of need that's a step that you need to do before you can actually jump in and make like tangible change. Because part of
Yeah.
that process is also being like what needs to be changed, what needs to be done, what needs to be handled, what's the biggest priority.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like intentional forethought instead of impulsive reaction, I think
Uh-huh.
what we're talking about here. Because if you do make rash decisions and rush into action, it could be a problematic response at the end of the day.
Exactly. And that goes for both like the relationships that like with people as we enter into this increasingly scary, more hateful world, but it also like even for the larger things because like we know that Trump has a tendency to throw things out to distract people while he does smaller things like that actually cause real damage. And so I think not just like jumping onto like the media train of like this is what he's saying, this is what he's doing, and actually like stop and analyzing, okay, like what is the actual problem? What's the
Yeah.
actual threat? And making sure you like the attention is directed towards that politically and not something that was just like thrown out there as a statement to get people like riled up.
Yeah. 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 Oh, how true that statement is and how far I could take that statement, but that is a different podcast entirely. What I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, on a very micro basis, is trying, and I'm not entirely successful at it because I am an imperfect human being, is trying to respond to situations like that with care and love more so than hurt and anger.
Hmm.
I'm not entirely successful of it, especially if I'm tired and hungry, which is my base mode of operation these days. And so I've had to get into the habit of A, acknowledging when I'm tired and hungry, and B, convincing myself that a lot of what I'm feeling is coming from being tired and hungry. Like, I understand that hangry is a thing, but I've been trying to think of a word to combine tired and hungry, and I can't really think of a good word. Like, there's tingry or hired.
Hmm.
But tired and hungry is a very dangerous state for me to be in, I've realized, and I need to not make decisions and not make actions when I'm in that state. I just have to like put the pause on, which is very hard for me. I'm a very action-oriented person. And so, like you said, I have to acknowledge the state before I can move forward with it and be like, all right,
Hmm.
I need to go eat something and like lay on the couch for like 20 minutes and then decide what to do with this particular situation. But it is not easy. It's a practice that I have to do every single day.
Yeah.
Um,
It's the fighting the like instinctual like survival brain from like the animal side of us and trying to actually bring in like the thoughts and
yes,
like thinking
yes,
things through and going against those instincts because there's a very different like survival is very different from like I don't know fighting off a bear that's trying to eat you to like fighting off like a huge political threat.
yeah, yeah. I literally had an orange thrown at me this week. So there are actual threats being thrown at me. But yeah, I mean, I was also very tired and hungry while that was going on. So it kind of just like didn't even. I was like, I can't even summon a reaction to that at the moment.
Fair, fair.
Uh, and we'll talk about like more concrete things, I think, in the next podcast because we haven't seen Vox Machina's response to this yet.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's very valid to say that like we need to, if we can, if we're in a safe enough situation to do
Hmm.
pause, reflect, then act.
Exactly. Yeah, because that comes like from like a lot of privilege too to actually have the
Absolutely.
space to stop. Like
Absolutely.
I absolutely do want to like acknowledge that not everybody has the luxury of being
Yeah.
able to stop and think.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes we just have to act, and that's okay too. And it will
Hmm.
be most likely imperfect action, and that's okay too.
Imperfect action is better than no action.
Absolutely. Imperfect action is better than perfect inaction, is one of like the phrases that I learned years ago that has stuck with me along the way. I'm like, all right. Because we all are just imperfect beings living in an imperfect
Hmm.
world. Like we're always going to have problems. There's no such thing as a problem-free existence that's
Yeah.
ever going to exist. And so it's how we approach the problems and deal with the problems that makes the difference at the end of the
Hmm. Exactly. And I think in a way that's what
day.
this is kind of going in a slightly different direction, but in like what I was trying to say when we were talking about like what the perfect government for Taldore would be.
Yeah.
Because I think in, like I said, in any government, there's always the risk of corruption. See, it's impossible. As much as I wish it were possible, it's impossible to find a form of government that is like perfect and that there's no chance of like a dictator rising up or anything like that. But that doesn't mean that we can't improve things. It just is a reminder that we need to constantly like fight and be aware because we can't solve it just by putting like the perfect structure in place.
Yeah.
It's a constant vigilance and watching out
Yeah.
for
There's no
those
such thing as a
threats.
perfect structure
Yeah.
because there's no such thing as a perfect being.
No.
Yeah. Well, on that very enthusiastic and optimistic light point, anything else you want to add before?
I feel like there's a million things that I could add, but I feel like we've reached the time limit for this episode. There's nothing pressing that
I
I need
know,
to
I
add.
know. I'm like, do I start a political podcast? Do I not? Do I have the time? Is more of the question I need to be asking myself.
Yeah.
But this is powerful stuff that we're talking about. And I know we are kind of talking about this stuff in a more lighthearted way than what you might be feeling at the moment. So, audience, we definitely don't want to like minimize or disregard your emotional experiences of what's
Hmm.
going on. And we definitely recognize our privilege as we get to even talk about this stuff on a public stage. Um,
Hmm.
so we like to do it respectfully.
Yes.
Um, and please share your own thoughts and feelings and stories and insights with us as well. We'd love to know how episodes like these have impacted you in your own lives. Critical Role has been a very loud and influential presence in pop culture in the last decade now that it's been around. And I think it has changed a lot of people's viewpoints on stuff like this. Um, and I think that that's exactly what we want to explore in this podcast is how it has shaped pop culture as well as personal lives along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So special thanks to Petal for joining me on this episode. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Next time, we'll be discussing Campaign 1, Episode 40, Part 1, and joining me will be Atlas, so I'm excited for that. As always, I'm looking for co-hosts and guests, so if you're interested in coming on, please let me know. In the meantime, please comment, like, subscribe below, follow us on Tumblr, and until next time, may all beings be peaceful, may all beings be free, and be the chaotic good you wish to see in the world. Take care, guys.
Bye.